Hi friends, welcome back or welcome if you're new here. My name is Stacy and I am the Chapter Conundrum. And in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about some anticipated releases for 2026. But I had so many that I decided to just narrow this video down to my top 10. So like the 10 that I'm the most excited about. We're going to go through these in release date order. So we'll start in January, working our way through the rest of the year. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to getting my hands on all of these books. I'm hoping that I can read them all in 2026, but we'll see. I often end up reading my anticipated releases like the year after they come out. So we'll see how I do with this list. But these are definitely the ones that I'm most looking forward to next year. So first off, we have 12 Months by Jim Butcher, book 18, or at least I think it's book 18, in the Dresden Files. And I kind of have like some ups and downs with the Dresden Files, but Peace Talks and Battleground were one of my favorite eras. And I do know that this one is going to be probably a little bit slower in pace than Battleground was, because Battleground was go, go, go. But this one is going to deal heavily with kind of like the after effects of the stuff from Battleground. And because of that, I'm not sure if it's going to be more of like a slower, more character focused read, or if it's going to be, because the synopsis kind of hints at like Harry needs some time after that, but he doesn't have any. The city needs him. Whether it's going to be kind of like he's just thrown right back into another crazy scenario. So time will tell, but I am definitely excited to hear James Marsters read this to me when I have my hands on it. He does a fantastic job with the audiobooks in the series, and I definitely think I'm going to have a really good time with this installment in the series based on the Goodreads synopsis. So this one is supposed to come out January 20th. Also on January 20th, I don't know why, but it just seems to be the day for new releases this year. There's a third one coming out that's not even on my video that's also January 20th. But my next January 20th release that makes my top 10 most anticipated for next year is Half His Age by Jennette McCurdy. So Jennette McCurdy wrote her memoir, I'm Glad My Mom Died, and I read and really enjoyed her writing in there. So I'm very curious to check out her contemporary fiction coming out this year. So I'm just going to read y'all the tagline on this one. It's startlingly perceptive, mordantly funny, and keenly poignant. Half His Age is a rich character study of a yearning 17-year-old who disregards all obstacles or attempts to overcome them in her effort to be seen, to be desired, and to be loved. So from what I know of this, beyond that tagline, it follows a 17-year-old who is like really romantically interested in her creative writing teacher who's much older. So obviously there's going to be some problematic elements to this character. She's going to be flawed, and it sounds like she's going to stop at nothing. Now, I don't know whether this is like unrequited or requited. I don't know what direction the story is going to take, but I'm definitely curious to dive into this and check out what Jennette McCurdy has come up with. I definitely feel like she'll have an interesting take on this character study. Lie down. Come on, lie down. Lie down, buddy. All right. Good boy. Next up on January 27th, we have Dear Debbie by Frida McFadden coming out. So this one you're probably aware of if you follow our Thrill, Chill, or Kill book club, because it is on our picks next year, and I believe it's February, which would make sense since it's the end of January release. But in here, we follow Debbie, who was an advice columnist, but her life now has kind of fallen apart or like taken some turns that are not for the better. And one of the lines in the synopsis of this one says, now Debbie's done being the bigger person. She's done being reasonable and practical, and it's time to take her own advice. Now it's time for payback against all the people in her life who deserve it the most. So I feel like this is going to be like a fun, cathartic read. I feel like it has the potential to be polarizing for different readers if they are somebody, especially thriller readers, who, if they like her character choices or not. Because I do find with some of my other favorite thrillers, like they are very polarizing depending on how people perceive those character choices. For me personally, I tend to be able to like suspend disbelief and kind of follow along with what the character is doing as long as it's explained, or as long as we kind of understand their motivations for the choices they're making. So I feel like this is going to be a really good read for me personally, especially since I had a really good time with The Boyfriend that I picked up earlier this year. And I'm also always in for cathartic moments in books, and I love reading a good revenge story too. So I'm hoping that I have a great time with this one. So this next one I'm really hyped for, and it's Daughter of Crows by Mark Lawrence. This is the first book in a new series called The Kindness Academy. From what I can tell, this is not going to be connected to any of his other books. It's going to be the start of a whole new thing. But the reason that I'm super excited for this one is because Mark Lawrence himself has said this is a return to dark fantasy for him. Like, even on Goodreads, he's left a review on this one saying, I've written a dark book here. And then he's got like a link to the cover reveal and stuff. But if you've been following my channel, you may know that the Broken Empire series, or at least the first 2 books in that trilogy, are like all-time fantasy favorites of me, and they are definitely grimdark fantasy. So I'm really, really curious to see his return to dark fantasy, especially following a female main character this time. And also, I feel like there's going to be some interesting things that sort of mirror concepts in Broken Empire. So I'll just read you the synopsis of this one. So first of all, the tagline in here is that this is a survivor of a brutal academy who must exhume her own past. Set a thief to catch a thief, set a monster to punish monsters. The Academy of Kindness exists to create agents of retribution, cast in the image of the Furies, known as the Kindly Ones, against whom even the gods hesitate to stand. Each year, 100 girls are sold to the Academy. 10 years later, only 3 will emerge. The Academy's halls run with blood. The few that survive its decade-long nightmare have been forged on the sands of the Wound Garden. They have learned ancient secrets amid the necrotic fumes of the Bone Garden. They leave its gates as avatars of vengeance, bound to uphold the oldest of laws. Only the most desperate would sell their child to the Kindnesses, but Rue, she sold herself. And now, a lifetime later, a long and bloody lifetime later, just as she has discovered peace, war has been brought to an old woman's doorstep. That was a mistake. So yeah, there's a lot in that synopsis that is pulling at me for sure, especially because it talks about exhuming her own past and like how she's going to have to delve into this. And why did she sell herself to this academy when it's like obviously known as a gruesome, horrible thing? And also, I'm curious about the present plot kind of ensuing in this one about how war has been brought to an old woman's doorstep and that being a mistake. So yeah, this one should be a really interesting read for me, and I'm hoping that I end up loving it as much as I think I will. So next up in May, although the exact date seems to be varied based on what format, the audio, which is the format that I will prefer, is, according to Google, coming on my birthday, May 26th. We're going to be getting A Parade of Horribles, which is the 8th Dungeon Crawler Carl book by Matt Dinniman. So this is a series I've been reading and enjoying a lot so far this year. I haven't looked up the synopsis of this one at all because I'm currently on book 5 and I don't want to be spoiled for anything that could happen in 5, 6, or 7. But yeah, this is a really fun audiobook experience of a series, and I've been enjoying diving into all of them. So I'm sure that book 8 is going to be no exception, and I will definitely enjoy Jeff Hayes' narration in the continuation of this adventure. Next up, on July 2nd, we are supposed to be getting the final volume in the Heartstopper graphic novel series, volume 6, and this is by Alice Oseman. So this is kind of like more of an unexpected favorite for me, but this is a series that I have been really enjoying so far. So I think part of it... Do you mind, sir? We are trying to film here. We are trying to film here. Lie down. Good boy. Good. Would you stop? We have the return of the Chaos Gremlin, apparently. Lie down, buddy. Come on. Lie down. You cannot... Come on. Come on, dude. This is what I get for trying to film on the couch, apparently. Yeah, okay. So typically I don't reach for graphic novels, and typically I also don't reach for young adult romance, but there's something about this series that I really enjoy. I think it's the combination of how cute and wholesome it is, paired with these characters going through kind of like some tough subject matter at the same time. Alice Oseman definitely doesn't shy away from the characters going through things, but also kind of shows in the capacity of a romance, like how they can really support each other and come together, which I think is really sweet. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to reading the final installment in the series and just seeing how it all wraps up. Next up, on July 28th, we have a new Shari LaPena thriller coming called Getting Away with Murder. And I know absolutely nothing about the synopsis of this, and I plan to keep it that way. Mainly my interest in this one is that I just really tend to love Shari LaPena's thrillers. I think I've probably read like 6 or 7 of them now, and like the vast majority of them are like 4 to 5 star range. I have a really good time reading her books. So I have a feeling her 2026 release will be no exception, and I'll really end up enjoying whatever she comes out with next year. So next up on August 4th, we have The Unknown by Riley Sager. So Riley Sager is somebody I would typically have said has always been a favorite thriller author of mine, and I had given like all of his books a 4 or 5 star rating up until like the last couple. The last like 3 that he's put out have been my least favorites of all of his books. So I am a little bit like trepidatious going into this one, but also I'm still excited for it because of my past experiences reading his books and just really liking it. I do still like his writing style, even if I don't always love the direction he takes his books anymore. So I am curious to see how he tackles this one. And just like the basic gist of this one, story wise, that I know is that it's a story told in multiple timelines, one in the 1920s and one current day, like 2026. So I'm pretty sure it's 100 years apart. And it's a struggling actress who ends up getting a major role in a movie that is going to be about some kind of like small town local mystery. And so she goes on a research trip to this little island, I think in Vermont. Yeah, Lake Faraday in Vermont. And I think it's going to be a lot about her experience of trying to uncover what happened with this unsolved mystery and just experiencing some unsettling things at this place and realizing that just not everything is quite right. Some disappearances start reoccurring on the island, and I think it's going to be the main character trying to uncover, like, is it somebody just trying to derail the movie, or is there something tied to the past of this island and this local legend that is the cause? The synopsis also hints that like perhaps this local legend had something to do with the occult. So it's going to be interesting to see how Riley Sager tackles this one. He definitely has multiple books where you're questioning as you read whether something is due to a supernatural element or not. And he's taken that in both directions in the past. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one unfolds, and I'm sure he'll keep me on my toes as I read this one. I'm definitely more intrigued by the synopsis of this one than I have been for his last couple. And so I think that's the reason that I'm putting this in my top 10 still, and I'm looking forward to it. I don't necessarily think I'm guaranteed to love his new releases anymore, but I am eager to give this one a go. Then my last 2 new releases that we have to talk about don't have firm release dates yet, but the authors have given us time windows. So the first of those is going to be Night Angel Rising. So this is going to be the 5th book in the Night Angel universe, or the 2nd book in the Kylar Chronicles, which is the trilogy following the Night Angel trilogy. So I read the Night Angel trilogy before I really had a channel, but I absolutely love it. Way of Shadows is probably one of my absolute favorite fantasy plots. Like, I would give that plot a 10 out of 10. And this is one that I'm really excited to go back and reread. So I'm happy to see that there's a new book in this universe coming relatively soon. And maybe I need to kick off my reread of this very soon so I can get to the Kylar Chronicles and figure out what's going on with the events after the original trilogy ended. So I know that Lightbringer is more Brent Weeks' popular series, but I've read both it and Night Angel, and I can definitely tell you I far prefer Night Angel. Now, I don't know if that's just that I have a tendency to prefer more dark fantasy, and Night Angel definitely fits that bill and sort of like that vein more. But I also just thought that the plotting of Way of Shadows was more intricate. So while there were maybe less moving pieces to that plot, I just thought there was a lot more nuance and creativity and just like exciting reveals and great moments in that story. That's definitely one where when you get a reveal, you see that you had the foreshadowing there for it in hindsight, and you're like, oh my goodness, I should have seen this coming, but I absolutely did not. And it's just one of those books that's like an exciting reading experience for that reason. But I also really like the characters in this series quite a bit. Kylar or Azoth is definitely up there for me. And having finished the first trilogy, I do kind of have a rough idea of like where we're headed story wise in the sequel trilogy. So I am definitely very curious to get into that and check it out. And then surprising absolutely no one, the last release I'm very excited for coming in 2026 is going to be Red God, the final book in the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. And there's a placeholder date on Goodreads for this, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to be accurate. Pierce Brown has said in recent interviews, from what I can gather, that it's going to probably be more like late 2026. But that's fine with me because that gives me time to delve into my reread of this series, and we're doing a reread of this next year. So I will go ahead and link the announcement video for that with the schedule and stuff in the cards for you guys to check out if you want. But some of the books in this series, including Golden Sun, are like my all-time favorite books. So I'm super excited that this series is going to be getting its conclusion soon, and I'm going to be desperate to know how it ends once I'm caught up with it and you get to my reread and like actually first time read some of the later installments. I've been purposefully holding off picking up Dark Age and Lightbringer until we had a closer announcement day or like a closer timeline for Red God, because I knew that it was probably going to be like the worst wait of my life if I read them sooner. So I am super excited that like now's the time. It's finally on the horizon. I finally get to get there, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading these ones next year. Also, this series is narrated by one of my faves, Tim Gerard Reynolds, so I'll definitely be picking this up on audio when it drops. But yeah, looking forward to all of these books. Let me know down below in the comments, what are some of your most anticipated releases for 2026? As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you want to on your way out, and have a great day. Bye!